Gordon that's my height. Was my behind him and made him some more. And he didn't go in on him. She went in and Louis Van Hook, she went. Sat one and six under. A little in the names. I'm not going to say, Saki, God, Saki, and all. Yes, yes. We learned it all. Because in the Shabal and Shawa, Saki, and this station, no. The Peter Flynn, and Roland and Passion on the highway, Saki, and then not with Fulton. Shamal, but in God, not the dog will see. I am not my height, you succeed. I did often the mouth for you. I was in ill. I'm fixed. The wind and now you wait it when I can succeed. To the brain and air with was Jesus who's
Thanks, Lisa and you. Before we get going, I want to review the agenda and approve, review and approve the agenda. Opening prayer. Number 2, administrative matters. Review and approve April 16th, 2019 agenda. Review and approve minutes dated March 20th, 2019. Crisis Management Team update, March 29th, 2019. Art Wilson, Robert Campbell, and Brian Williams. Number 4, Tribunal Ad Hoc Committee. Number 5, other matters. Number 6, next government session date. And the next crisis management team meeting, April 18th, 2019. And number 7, closing prayer. You want to address the agenda?
Can I hand something out, Brian, please?
Are you going to address the agenda? You have it on, if you want to put something on the agenda?
No, I just want a handout,
Yes.
I forgot them yesterday.
So you're asking for time on the
Yeah,
agenda?
just to hand it out and then.
Say a few words.
You want to do that now, or you want
Might as
to
well
wait
do it
on,
now before you guys get
on
going.
other matters?
Huh? I got
There's
other things I
room
gotta
number
do. so I
5
wanna
for other
hand it out
matters.
now. If you don't mind.
Okay, do your hand up.
Say a few words.
Yes. Okay. So there's an additional request from Sherry Wright to also add a few remarks after Rennie Wright provides some information.
And number 5?
It's going to happen as soon as he's finished handing out the.
Catherine? Hello? Hi.
Why some you get the couldn't yours.
Hi. There you are.
Some of skipping, you know, some low. Wasn't sound will need that. Photocopied it. Hold on door. Gas will need one loads. Gitxsan, Stony Creek, down Kidman Cool River. Down 9 mile and we out in Machel Stars. It has Hawas, down las Casa Slow. And you want and yes loads. Wasn't sound will need us on Kinamus Moses Jones. Some make some get. Knuckle that Kinam wasn't sound will need that. The flaggy goats to me acting. Ja, Paul, hey, sorry, I'm jägers and jag gick ut, kom en jägert lösen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Sherry?
Just to follow up on that, Wilkes, Nigadane, and Mistah. I handed out a request to all of the chiefs yesterday and today to respectfully request your participation, as noted below, to be a part of these important discussions on Nigadane territory, a planning and decision-making process that currently does not include us, our WILT members, our wing chiefs. We understand there are 2 meetings dividing our families by a geographical identity, upriver and downriver. This is a reference to which direction our people were traveling. We are Gitxsan, Gitxsan up and down the Skeena River, matrilineal bloodlines, fathers, grandfathers, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, connecting our WILPs through our families. We request each and every one of your assistance over the next 6 months. We will plan and set up a series of 4 meetings, with the first meeting devoted to the GTS and the Gitxsan negotiators, explaining to the Simgiget and our wing chiefs and our WILP members, including the undersigned chiefs, what this Gitxsan governance will look like at the end of this negotiation implementation process, and fully answering each and everyone's questions, with the second meeting devoted to the federal and provincial negotiators, meeting with and answering the questions of all the Simgiget wing chiefs and WILP members. The third meeting devoted to discussing among ourselves and the Simgiget. And finally, the fourth meeting devoted to the Simgiget wing chiefs and WILP members further discussing these matters and giving direction to the GTS. This invitation reflects our hope for a coordinated approach on Nigadane territory that respects Nigadane's Get. Our stewardship roles and responsibilities to care for our people and our environment, respecting our Adaw and our Io. Wilkes, Nigadane, and Mistah would like to share our vision of care for Gitxsan on Nigadane territory.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you for your time. Very honored that you allowed me to speak.
Thank you to Rennie and Sherry for their updates, and Chief will discuss it a little bit further on other matters. 5.
Yep.
I'll add to number 5. The letter that Sherry Wright presented. Any other changes to the agenda? If none, I'm asking for a mover to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Oye. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Stutumlaha. Questions on the motion?
I just had one, maybe just to inform the next people that are going to be meeting with regards to this agenda, that it is a change that happened while we were trying over the agenda.
Okay. Any objections to the agenda? All those in favor of the agenda as presented? Raise your hand.
With amendments.
With amendments? Against? One against? Two against?
Oh, against?
You can't hear.
You're not against?
No,
Okay.
I thought you
Let
said
me
again.
call it-
Again.
Let me start it over again. I apologize, you can't hear me.
I thought you said again, so I put up my.
No. All those in favor of the agenda? Raise your hand. With addition. All those against the agenda? None? Thank you very much. I want to review the minutes dated March the 20th. You have a copy in front of you.
Yeah, I know, they do on the Facebook site too. Remember?
Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes?
Sorry, just one addition here. It says that Francis Sampson was absent, but we weren't going to attend. We're not, hadn't been participating. This is the first meeting that we've come to. So we were just wondering if we could remove her name as being absent. As if it was something that she was going to attend, I would have attended like I'm coming today, and yesterday.
We put the phone call out to Frances, and it's up to her whether she attends or not. We're not forcing anyone to attend, and we're not forcing anyone not to attend. We put the invitation out, we've added her name on there, and we're, we'd rather put her name on there as we've invited her, rather than say, or not, rather than not put her name on there, and it may come back, and again, I'm thinking out loud, it may come back like we didn't invite her.
So then I guess for yesterday's meeting, Ms. Stahl wasn't on there on the absent list, so.
Yesterday is not my meeting.
Correct. So that's why I thought that, so we didn't know yesterday that that was a complete list of all of the chiefs?
No, the chiefs that were, that are invited to their meeting are listed in the Gates group.
Okay, it's the invitation list, okay.
Yes.
Okay, I get that. Okay, thank you.
Everyone had a look at the minutes? Any errors, omissions? If there are none, I'll ask for a mover to move the minutes as presented. by Goem, seconder. Seconded by Niskimenu. All those in favor? Against?
Again.
Abstentions? Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Any questions, concerns?
Just to let you know, Nicodemus is here as an observer, not a voting abstainer or for or against. She just asked me to witness.
Thank you. Note that in the minutes. For your information, we have Rail phoning in, so she's on the line. So we'll go on to number 3, crisis management team.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Is there a question on the minute?
Yes.
Number 3, when do we anticipate that happening? And the motion number 3?
It was released already. Just that
Oh, the first one that we
Yes.
have that. Oh, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's good enough.
I think there was 1,000 copies made and handed out. So crisis management team update.
Was that sent to off reserve or just on reserve?
I'm not certain. I think some went off reserve also. The reason why I know that I talked to Good Canucks a week and a half ago, and he informed me he got a copy of it. So yes, it was provided off reserve.
Is it possible to get an electronic copy so I can bring it down to Vancouver?
We have a sign up for the newsletter on Facebook. You can sign up for it and we will send it to you electronically.
I haven't received.
So back to number 3. Robert or Art, do you want to start on the crisis management team report?
Well, I think just to fill in other people, like use English so everybody understands me. I know that all of the chiefs got together in the beginning, and they said that they weren't going to allow sports fishing next summer. They didn't like the idea of sports fishermen playing with fish, and then I think the fishing wasn't very good last summer, so but I guess the hereditary chiefs that of the whole, they said that if we're going to be talking serious with the government, then competing jurisdictions have to be engaged, especially our jurisdiction. So they asked who is going to participate in the crisis team, and nobody really wanted to participate because if we were going to go out there to chase the sports fishermen away, then nobody wants to do that, so we kind of reluctantly decided to put our names forward, and I think for somebody like myself, I'm not looking forward to kicking people off the river. I'm just and so in the meantime, I have a language teaching job, and that kind of got in the way. Like I can't commit as much as I was before. So fishing is it's not going to be an easy job. What the chiefs are asking to do, like anyway, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Thank you, Art. Robert?
Soon to Gitxsan manat the world. Wat die huis lang zo allemaal. Just like Art said, we're not going to allow any sport fishing along the Skeena this year, 2019. We tried last year, but the government overstepped. Our fish stock is getting depleted, and it's getting worse. And we asked for the provincial government if they have data on catch and release, how many of these fish survive. And they said they were going to send it to Elaine, but so far we got nothing. We met with the feds representative from BC. We're going to meet with them again to let them know where we stand and why we're doing this. And also we're asking our neighbors to come in and join us. Like Bean Lake, Nace, Gitxsan, Kalen, Morristown. All our neighbors, whoever wants to be there, they're welcome. Because the more we have that's involved, the stronger we are. And we're not accepting any more quotas from the government. It is our inherent right to fish. So they're not going to be setting quotas how much they allow the natives. They've been doing this for years and nobody said nothing. And I also mentioned a little offline about our fishing tenure, what we do here, but why did they allow seining at the mouth of the Skeena? We asked if there's any way that can be stopped. Same with the Lake Babi. They say there's overabundance of fish and there's no way for them to spawn. So I asked them, who was there 100 years ago, 500 years ago? To tell the fish where to spawn, they find their own way. And seining, as you all know what seining is, it drags the bottom, wrecks the spawning ground. Same with the fishermen that's along the Skeena. Plus the fee simple land, you can't get to your unut, railway, all these things. So we're going to continue to, actually the Fed said we need to discuss some more and put something interim. I said, I don't believe in interim. Every time they put something that says interim, it takes them years. So it's there for years. We can't wait years for the fish to regenerate. And I told them we don't like what happened in Newfoundland about the cod fishing that is done by the feds. Now it's coming our side, the west coast. And that's what we're fighting for. We're a long ways, there's gonna be trouble. Some people are scared what the redneck's gonna do. But we have to be strong. It is our territory. And we have jurisdiction, which the government don't. So we told them that we're not gonna accept the permits or fishing permits that the government issues. According to what I heard, they said they lost 25 million last year. How about the natives? How much did they lose? The last 2 years, you never got no fish. And right now, if you don't have money, you can't. You have to buy your fish. It's not like years ago. So we'll continue with that, Art and Brian. We can't back down on this. Every time we talk to BC, it's lands and title. That's what they fall back on, lands and title. And I told them, you guys who left the table. When the Delavaux position came up, we were supposed to try make agreement, BC, federal, and the natives, Gitxsan. So we're trying to, that's why we're going on the governments, Gitxsan governments. I'll talk more on that after. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
I just have a few comments before. So I'm part of the crisis management team. And yesterday I got a phone call from Colin Masson, who's manager out of Prince Rupert, overseeing the DFO. And looking for quick solutions to get the sport sector on side. And looking at ways that we can have a discussion and provide the information and basically said, well, we can't stop issuing the permits. Said by us closing the Siena River within our Lakip for 32,000 square kilometers, you're putting up barriers. You're making it a struggle. Says, I understand, he said, I understand what your culture is all about. And I basically listened to him, reminded him that there's no one looking out for us. I talked about the Gitxsan incident. He quickly tried to interject. I said, no, you have to listen to me. I listened to you for 15 minutes. He wanted to provide a solution so that the sports sector can assist or be on side. And I said, well, we got a whole year. We're closing for 2019. We're setting up this crisis management team. You got a year. He said, yes, I understand. I said, do you understand? There's this fisherman from Germany or Austria or wherever who comes and buys this permit for $35, which gives him the right to fish anywhere he wants. We can't go to Moos's fishing site and say, I'm going to fish there. Moos can't come to Guya's fishing site and fish there. We have that understanding. That is what we do, and that is our IO. What gives this German guy who's drinking beer, sitting on his boat, these two German shepherds snarling away at the kids that are unarmed. Who's protecting us? Who's looking after our rights? So I basically let Colin know that, well, we've got a year to figure this out. We're not gonna figure it out at the next meeting. For instance, last year, the province DFO said the river is closed only to use 7¼ inch mesh May 31st. June 1st, they turn around and open it for everybody. It's a matter of opinion is what we're seeing. So this is what we're meeting with Glenrob, Patty Hirschfield, who's representing Doug Donaldson's office, and Colin Masson, who's representing DFO. I asked Colin if, well, apparently Colin is leaving. He's retiring. I said, well, are you passing this information on? Yes, there are. He basically said, yes, they're very well aware of what the Gitxsan are doing. We've written a letter to Minister Doug Donaldson in November or December last year. We finally got a response about 2 weeks ago. We have a meeting set up June 7th to meet with Minister Donaldson, and he wants a review of the what has happened with the crisis management team. So that's my part of what we've discussed on the fisheries tenure. And as we agreed, we're only biting off as much as we can chew. There's a multitude of issues out there. This is only one issue that we're working on. Thank you. Questions? Sherry and then Oye.
Sure.
At the table.
I thank the report that was just given. It's really good. I do support what you guys just are doing, but I'm in a catch-22, meaning I'm sitting on the fence, don't know which way to go. I was selected the shareholder for $1 million industry that Gitxsan owns 1/3 of. And we discussed this shareholders meeting, Simsian, Niska, and us. And we're meeting with, Alvin is the oldest fisherman we have in the fleet of 200 licenses. We discussed this, and we're trying to hold a meeting with DFO, and you mentioned Colin's retiring. Yes, he is going to retire. We don't know who's going to follow him. But at the same time, the other two nations are asking, how are we going to support, the salmon? They're worried too, Niska, Simsian. We're in the catch-22 because last year we didn't rent out 28 licenses, but the government still charged us 10,000 each. So we had to pay 280,000 out of our own money to the government. It's just like logging, you got your stumpets. But we continue to pay, even though we got over 200 licenses, we continue paying the 10,000 for each. And a lot of our fishermen we don't have them anymore, and where do we go with that? Our fishermen are depleting, but we own a 1/3 share. That's over $7 million. The industry that we own. What the chief's recommended for us to do, before our next meeting, to close down and go belly up. That's a big concern that we have. I mean, get see the man nach wilch. Let's come here and the houden. Net om dat die am zag op wilp zouden Gitxsan dem halen dem lolagen stagiat aliax. Die de gust hard geens op zeven. Ze hebben nooit gesproken. Som geget. In de saxie hulp op voor smiddags. Ik dacht nog niet veel aan aangesteld. Nee, niet naar hem nog niet, die heeft dat. I like to listen. There are 12 people on that committee there. Those were the people. I like to use that 12 people, that big table. So I them to poke them stin. We're going to work against each other's First Nations people here. I hear a little bit about what Mr. Campbell was saying a while ago, saying in Babine. Ever since that thing started 3 years ago, salmon has started to disappear. He's starting to disappear. And I don't think there's people in Babine that will back off. They are going to carry out, because that's their territory. And we have to find a way to slow that down or shut it down. There never was any seining, and there's no problem with salmon years ago. So I really think that we should get that 12 people, that big table. How are we going to put this in Amshiwa Ayok? Skeet Leom and September. In Mr. Williams, guy from Germany there. He laughed at us. I bet he'll just throw his line in front of him and hink there if he wants to. But what the heck can we do? He paid these $30. And this is the reason why I want to see that our 12 people, I repeat this again, that we should put them to work and come up with the ayok, the right words to use. When Gordon Sebastian goes to Vancouver on our behalf, he has to carry that message from the big table. One time only. We missed this, we strike 3, we're out. We're in a serious area here in connection with salmon. Like what I say, I don't want to attack our little Wilpsoon over here. Gitxsan Wilpsoon. That's the rights we have, it's our own Wilpsoon. We can't say nothing about Babine, we can't say anything about Gitxsan Calum, Gitxalat, Port Simpson. They got a lot to say. We got a big thing in our hands here. Got need omens of seven. Let's do it right. Let's do it right and put the proper words out there. Nishka Minu will have to sit with those 12 people. We Mughals will have to sit with those 12 people and learn from them. They were chosen on government standard. You've got to put in their name maybe a few months before they can be accepted. Just how serious that 12 people. I'm sorry with them last week, you could say I was coming to will. Well, I will let them just for them and the savings. It's yet with Gel the malaria that the native Malaski decision. The wrong party with the Malaski. I can say thank you to the chairman for allowing me to put in my feeling toward to strengthen what we're doing here. I'm not stopping it, I want to support it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Most.
Okay, again. Sit a minute. On a couple of weeks. Toi sinisen, hvor er det? Vi bugles. Det skal vi nu. Hvad smagte det? I have two comments on the report. First of all, I'm very surprised to hear that DFO is sticking their nose in his business. We're dealing with BC with his permits. I don't know what rights DFO has any to be calling you up and asking you, what do you think you're doing? What do you think we're doing? It's BC we're dealing with. They're the ones that are issuing the permits. So next time you hear from DFO, tell them to shut up. And to the crisis management team, there's a lot of other underlying things that are ongoing right now also. Remember there was a big drought last summer. Dried up all the creeks where the salmon went to go spawn. They had nowhere to go to spawn. So that's the other thing we got to think about, other than this mismanagement by the Umpqua. We got to put that in the equation, because I hear this year, this upcoming year is also going to be just as bad as last year when it comes to water. And I don't know what the guides and Kispioks, all up the Kispioks Valley. I just got back from out of town trip here, and I checked my email before I came to the meeting, and I had a whole bunch of requests from 4 or 5 guides from Kispioks, wanting to meet with the Kispioks watersheds, so they could discuss their salmon conservation with the chiefs. So I'm just wondering whether I should just redirect those requests to the crisis management team. Okay, I'll do that. That's all I need to say. All right. Go on, listen.
Thank you. Sherry?
Thank you, everybody, for your time again. Hearing about the crisis management team, it really sounds like standing on Indigenous law, standing on those rights and titles. It's the same hearing all this good work. It's what we as a WILP, we're dealing with CN Rail on Mission Creek. We effected policy changes. We worked together. We found the province failed miserably in their ability to hold a federally regulated entity to task. Time and time again, they looked to our Indigenous law to uphold that standard. So this model that we're proposing and asking, the crisis management team, when we heard about it after the fact, all we ask is to be involved in the planning and the decision making, so that we as WILPs and wing chiefs and House members feel a part of this process. Right now, following UMSIWA processes to make our decisions and to do our planning isn't following our Indigenous laws and the way that we make decisions and do our planning. So we fall back to that request that this work be shared with all of the chiefs And if I could ask how the crisis management team represents each and every Lahyip, each 62 or 65 chiefs that, you know, are recognized. I heard today that there's an invitation list. But, you know, as Gitxsan, Gitxsan, that should include all of us. It's not such a cumbersome system that we can't do it in Amtsiwa, today's society. Somehow our chiefs in the 1950s, they kept it alive by having to go into the church basements and putting paper around. We want to be a part of this, but we also want to follow the way that our ancestors planned and made decisions. And so I hope this is something that'll move in that direction. It's a great opportunity to test drive or to see how incorporating our feast system into your planning and decision making and following policies and procedures that will uphold our Indigenous law so that it strengthens it if and when other chiefs want to go to court for land title. Wilpsnigadane and Nista, we've been told, are 50% of the way claiming our land title on our territory. We've asked and are requesting that everybody, Galiaks, Gitxsan, be a part of that process as it was in the old ways. Thank you. Robin has the questions, yeah, for the specific. I'm not a fisherman.
We have Jack next, and then you can come after.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Jack?
Can you add me, Brian?
Jack, I'll have to hold off on that, Jack. Kyle? You have the floor?
Yeah. I just wanted to say that the Kispiox watershed did meet with Shannon McPhail last Friday with the Skeena Watershed Conservation Coalition. And I asked her at that meeting if she was going to support us in our movement. And she said that they would be taking a vote at their next meeting sometime this week. I don't have my notes in front of me, but she also recognized her conflict because many of the guides are her own family. And I suspect she has informed them of our advising her that we don't want sportsmen to do catch and release also. And, you know, those $35 permits that the Europeans or whoever's coming out of country, those are big ticket people that she seemed concerned about it as well, but she seems to be thinking catch and release is okay, I'm guessing. And the other thing she provided was a report from Lake Babine, kind of looking at all the different zones of, you know, ones that are really in crisis, some that are not, and she had offered some kind of funding to us to do the same thing, but it's just a paper, it's a desk survey thing. There's no ground truthing to it. But the problem is that it would be funded by Skeena Wild, which we may not necessarily want to be involved with. But I think Brian was there for part of it. So that's what I think is happening with the request to meet with the Kispiox watershed. And what did you say, Bill? It was for silent support?
What is that again, Kath?
What was their request to meet with the Kispiox watershed for silent?
What I read into what their request was, they wanted to give us their side of the story.
Well, their side of the story. Okay. Yep. It's going to hurt their pocketbook, but it's at a crisis stage, and there'll be no fish for anybody next year or in the very near future if we don't look after it.
You're right, Catherine. I also did remind them too that the closure was for 1 year, 2019.
Yes.
Is that it, Catherine?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Jack, Robin, then Walter.
Sure, I ain't gonna get bumped again.
Holy smoky.
I have a lot of concerns. I'm a fisherman, I'm a hunter, and I provide for a big family and a big clan. So, I guess the first concern I have is, last night I spoke to the West. Talked a little bit about that, and then I'll continue on my concerns about our area here. It's very important, so I hope I don't get interrupted. Anyway, Bobby was mentioning Burns Lake. My partner and I, we were assisting the Canadians against us, but our own people. My partner and I, we got blamed for cutting somebody's neck. We don't need to cut somebody's neck. We know it feeds our people. Why would we do that? We don't want our necks cut, but every single day something's done with my neck. Either my web is cut, my rope is cut, my cable across the river is cut. Every single day something wrong from our own people. And that's why I would ask, when are we going to involve the people again? When are we going to bring the membership in? What? You chiefs can't do it alone. I support what you're doing, but we have to do it as a whole nation. All of us got to get together, and we've got to have meetings like the young lady said, where we start bringing stuff like what I just brought up has to stop. Why are we fighting each other and damaging each other's property? Even one area, it was our clan's fishing hole. Walter and I got chased out of there, but it belonged to our clan. So something, I don't know how to do it, but something has to be done where we start working together. We chased out, I bet you over 50 to 100 sport fishermen last year. And they go early. Simon Dodd's bringing them up. We chase him out with his old group. Same thing, they argue they have permits. Monitoring, GWA should be doing that instead of coming after our fishermen and policing our fishermen. They should be chasing those sport fishermen out. So I think I said enough, but the last thing I'd like to just say a little bit on the hunting. So you guys should be not only doing the fishing, you should be doing the hunting. Young hunters from Kitchigooka, Kispiox, Glenwall, and some from my own clan have phoned me and asked, Jack, what can we do? We've got no moose. And they said there's hundreds of white guys out there hunting, and they all have permits. Just one area alone in Babine where we usually hunt, they have 4 sessions of 2 weeks at a time for permit hunters, limited entry.
165 white men get a permit to hunt for 2 weeks, 4 sessions at a time in one area alone. So you look at that. Imagine if every one of them got a moose, 4 times 165 people. That's why there's no moose for our young people who are trying to make a living, trying to feed their families, their young families. In the same area with fishing, we really have to take a look at GWA and see if they can start working with us. Instead of, that's the last thing I'm saying, is they were the ones that phoned the Department of Fisheries on me. When I was told by their management to keep fishing, I got a $2,500 bill now. But they told the Department of Fisheries, and I asked that fishery officer, and he said that they phoned them 3 times before they decided to come. And they weren't fooling around when they came and charged me. They came with 5 pickups, fishery officers from Terrace and Smithers, and 6 cop cars from Hazelton. Just to charge one Indian, one Gitxsan that was just practicing his Aboriginal rights. And now, because of my own people, it cost me a lot of money for my nets, ropes, cables, and now $2,500 because of GWA. And I'm not afraid to say they did it because they did it. I asked the Department of Fisheries. So I think if we're going to be doing anything together, we have to put them in line first. Something has to be done. They're getting millions of dollars, and they're not looking after our fishery. From Rupert to Burns Lake is our fishery because that's our spawning grounds. And it's not being looked after. We have to say something, or like somebody said here, I heard it. They said we're going to be starving in 5 years. I think it's going to be sooner. We won't have no fish. We already have no moose. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. We have 3 more speakers, and then we'll move on. Robin, Walter, and then Joe.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. This part here really interests me. I'm a fisherwoman. I grew up with my dad, Wibawak, up in the Kispiox Valley. I fished alongside Wimugosh up in their hole. That's where I'm allowed to fish with my dad. I understand the law. You know, I'm allowed to fish with my dad as long as he's alive in the fishing hole, and we don't go into anybody else's fishing holes to fish as well. So I had some questions. You said last year you had a hard time engaging somebody to fulfill the duty of kicking people off the river. I'm just wondering, is this going to be a paid position? And I was also kind of reiterating what Jack was saying. Where's Gitxsan watershed authorities? I'd like to see them at this table, what their numbers are, or having their money at this table. They should be employing somebody to do this. Like I said, I've grown up in the Kispiox Valley River with my dad. I fished there since I was a little girl. And this year we noticed the currents changed. The water is way warmer. Our fish have to go farther out, meaning we've got to get our net longer just to hit that fish so that we could provide for our family. So I wanted to make up those points. And I see Gitxsan watershed authorities, they come to our fishing hole all the time and they monitor us to a T, what we're catching, what's, you know, what our count is for each specific species of fish every year. So, you know, I want to see them here with their numbers. And then I don't know if there's ever been an environmental scan done with regards to all these environmental changes, and perhaps there's monies there, or there's something there where we could present to the DFO to stop the fishing. I don't know how you would either to do this with all of these big guiding outfits in the Kispiox Valley. I've approached Kispiox Band on it to do their own studies up in the valley. Because Bear Claw Lodge, have you ever been up there? It's huge. It's extravagant. It's 5-star. They're making a lot of money. And so we have to stop our fishing, you know, and we see all these fancy vehicles coming up. And not only that is, I think a couple of years ago, my dad was on his dad's trap line, Pete Muldoe's, and he got kicked out of his trap line by a vallier. And I don't want to name names, but telling them to get off their land because it was gated. So we have a lot of Amshuas buying up land up in the valley, and it's scary because you see these vehicles with German license plates. They're driving in and out of the valley, and they're buying up lots of land up there. And because we've driven up there to go and have a look. That's what I was going to talk about too, was the hunting. You know, we have to go further up north just to go hunting. And then, do you have any data from the Bear Claw Lodge on how much they're making, or what their fishermen pull out, their sports fishermen? So I'd like to see all those numbers. I just wanted to reply to Maus's remark there, telling the DFO to F off. That's exactly what we do when we go to Rupert, because they harass us every time we leave there. We're like, no, that's our right. However, every time we're on, we go coast fishing all the time. Metlakatla Fisheries has no problems coming up to us, harass us for our fees. So I wanted just to put those points out there, and if you can answer any of my questions about the job with monitoring. So thank you.
Thank you, Robin. And answering your question.
Okay.
Walker?
Sydney get to find out what to do the Wilson. I'm swallowing $3 from Sydney get. I'd like my partner Jack here, when we got shut down on the Skeena. You know, a lot of people don't listen to us very much, but I ran into a lot of our own people on the Skeena, and I tried to show them. Because all my life I've been on the Skeena. I tried to show them where their fishing hole is and stuff like that, but it's pretty hard to do. So I left it alone. But anyways, when we got shut down, I told Jack, well, we should go up there and have a look at the spawning beds at the Babine. And boy, that really opened up our eyes. The years that we got shut down, you know, and I got a few pictures here on my camera, you know, and I'll show you guys. 3 sailboats on the Babine Lake. 3 of them. And they made a deal with that Amshua there. And he bought them the seiners, Big Babine Nation. And one last year, there was 3 seiners, one set, all 3 of them made sets. And they pulled in 53,000 sockeye. That's just one set. They seined it. I took pictures of it. Look at that. You know? You can see them. And they're all we approach them. I have no ill feelings to some people, but like Jack said, we gotta revamp our GWA. And what really surprised me is one of those boats up there belonged to a member of GWA. And they were seining the sockeye with them. And when they were seining the sockeye, they were cleaning them from the rope. And instead of giving the fish to the poor people, they threw the fish back in the lake. I didn't ask any questions, they just told us. You know, you can believe me if you want to. Doesn't really matter, pictures don't lie. You know, and I was really upset when I seen that. We were shocked.
shut down here, and they were just harvesting all them nice sockeye. Just like last year. There was abundance of sockeye. So right after fishing season, I talked Jack into going up to Babine to look at those spawning beds. Boy, I couldn't believe it for the amount of sockeye that went up there, the spawning beds were empty again. You know? I'll get back to you to GWA. I've been fishing ever since with my dad when I was a little boy. You guys all remember my dad? He got charged for it even the net in after 6 o'clock. We got down there at 5 to 6, my dad and I was just a little boy, I remember. And they piled the DFO, piled the net up on the shore, they dumped the fish on it, they dumped gas all over my dad's net and they lit it up. That's 5 to 6. So my dad took him to court and I heard it, and I know he won. But that didn't cover the net. You guys all know how much the net is. That's what we have to, my friend and I have to pay all that. But last 2 years, I launched out of here, that boat on Sylvester Sims made for my dad down here. You should see it, it's just full of Amshawa. And those guys fish until the river's frozen over. The river's frozen over and they're still fishing. So I put a camera up to protect my boat. And certain members of our community, Amshawa, they went down and caught them all on camera. They cut my cable off. They threw big boulders in my boat, hit my motor. Then they pushed my boat out into the river. Twice they did that. And I reported it. I told the RCMP. They didn't even do anything. I went to GWA. They just laughed at me. You know? So I said to myself, well, I'm going to deal with it myself. So down Unlow last year, we parked my boat down Unlow. And again, we went down there. It's a good thing I have my cell phone. There's this guy there. Takes these people out fishing. 6 of them on one boat and they were on my net. I got it all on camera. They were cutting the fish out of my net. I asked them, what the hell are you guys doing? They told me they had every right to be there. I'm sure. Again, I went and complained. Nothing was done. Not even 2 weeks later after I complained, DFO came all the way from Smithers, cut the lock off my gate, hooked my net up to their truck and yanked it out of the river. So I went, I talked to GWA. I said, DFO out of Smithers told me that GWA phoned them and told them to go do this. I just couldn't believe it. I went after them. They ripped up my net. One of those nets is $3,500. I was quite pissed off and I told them I want that net back on my property before I get home. And sure enough, it was piled up there, all ripped up. You guys are doing a really good job here. You know, Bobby, all you guys, keep it up. We'll back you 100%. Well, this flew by down, which I'm sure, not keep on the action. You know, I'll back you guys up 100%. You keep up the good work. But we gotta put our foot down, like you said. I'll be on the Lawson Simgiget.
Thank you, Walter.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch bases with Jack there on the, I've been up there in 1997, the first time I went up to the Babine. The fence there and checked out the spawning grounds. That's when they brought the first aid boat in.
Yeah.
Now, Greg Taylor, Jim Patterson, been doing this since 1997. Started off with one flat bottom seine boat. Chris Barnes, my late cousin, Charlie, and them brought in, what's that guy's name? Cecil Hill, to teach those guys how to seine. They run that same boat on that lake. And the role goes to Jim Patterson and Greg Taylor. They're the two main people of this whole entire system. Now, I used to fish for Canadian Fish back in the 70s, and Art used to do the same. Whoever fished for Canadian Fish fished for that same company and the same guy, Greg Taylor. Very friendly guy, unless you steer him wrong and then you're gone. But I was going to say to you guys that my sister got married last year in Burns Lake. So we went up there to support the wedding. And I talked to one of the people up there, and Jim Patterson was saying to the Burns Lake people, the Babine people, they're planning on putting fish farms in the Babine. Okay, now you got a disease running in all the fish farms in Vancouver. We see that on TV all the time. They put it out. We see that. Okay, now what's it going to be the difference between them putting a fish farm up at the Babine with fish that doesn't belong to Canada or to BC with the spawning fish? They want to kill it a lot quicker. This is one of the stuff that Jim Patterson said, and I'm going to get material on this for you guys so you can see. One of the things that Jim Patterson said when talking to that elder up there, he says, why should the Indians get free fish? Okay? This is a millionaire white man that's made billions. He bought out all the sailboats on all the canneries. Where do you guys think your mop-up came from? 13 years that's been going on. I asked Charlie Mildeau at a meeting, at a feast actually, I asked Charlie. I said, how come every year you guys say, Charlie, there's no fish for the First Nations on the Skeena River, and then all of a sudden there's a big mop-up? If I still owned the gill netter, one of the first things I would have done is I would have got right in the middle of all those sailboats and made a set with them, because you have the rights to do that. Jim Patterson, that guy is so stinking rich. What more does he need? Has he ever lived amongst our people here to see how hard it is to survive each day, and that's including everybody? We got to go further than just this here, guys. You have to get a hold of Jim Patterson. Bring that guy inside this office and let's go draw some pictures on the wall for what he doesn't see that happens amongst the natives. He don't care. He don't give a shit if you're coming or going. As long as he's got that fish out of that water and you don't get any. Now, as far as monitoring, I monitored for GWA for 2 years. One of the things I'm going to ask you guys, Brian, is what happened to your guys, what happened to GWA Rangers? How many millions of dollars did they spend to develop these Rangers? Where are your Rangers? The ones that's supposed to go right from the mouth of the Skeena River all the way up to the headwaters of the Skeena River every day and check all the tributaries to make sure that nothing's wrong. Not one ranger out there. I got called on, I did a monitoring job down at, when they started doing sockeye flossing, they call that. You weren't allowed to snag fish when you're a First Nation person, right? If you got caught snagging fish, you got busted. But now the white man is allowed to floss. They call it floss, they should just call it snagging. Okay? I was doing across from Woodcock Ranch, that big gravel pit there. That's one of the hottest spots for flossing. I met a guy there, he's the one that handles the Toboggan Creek hatchery. Him and I went toe to toe on the road. His partner got in between and pulled us apart. The guy says, what gives you First Nations the rights to put the net in the water? It's time for you guys' outfit here to do a hand guide. A little hand pamphlet. Hand it out to those fishermen. This is why Brian Williams and Jimmy Angus and Billy Blackwater Jr. says we can't do this. Because our ancestral rights are here first. But according to the white man, you're the last guy on the gravy train here. You don't belong here. There's been a few times I wanted to ask some of my people here, let's go get an old sailboat and go all the way around and then end up in on Vancouver Island there in Victoria, and we'll all stand at the bow and say, hey, we're boat people. We need money. I scratched for a lot of years to get an old wooden boat, and it got written off, I think 3 years after I started fishing. $25,000 it cost me to buy that boat. And I can't get it through the Native Brotherhoods. I had to pay for it myself. When Jim Patterson and Brian Mulrooney brought in 2,500 Vietnamese, I started fishing in 1970 for Canadian fish on my own. They had Native Brotherhood and outfit from the government's office going around, and they were buying boats. All the personal boat owners, Japanese, white people, natives that had their own boats, and they had no backup to take over the boat, they bought them out. Whatever you wanted, if you wanted 30, 40, 50,000, the government gave that to you right now. It's done. Okay, 500 boats got taken off the water. And they did that, why? To cut back the fleet so you don't deplete the fish. Eh? You see that? 1975, I worked for DFO. There was no work around here, so I went and I put a uniform on for Peter Velossin. He had that little office across from the bay. I learned an awful lot of things in that little time that I worked for them. I don't know if you guys remember when they used to tell our ancestors, or banning them, you have to bury the guts. You're polluting the water. You have to go and get a permit. Your permit's only good for 3 days, and after that you have to pull your net out of the water for a week. See, all these, I haven't forgotten none of the stuff that's been going on all these years to my grandmother and my grandfather. Still on the back of my head, I haven't forgotten, and I won't forget it. Because they made us suffer. Made all the people suffer to prove a point to you that you're little people. I personally agree with what you guys are planning on doing, but I disagree with some of the matters that you guys are looking at. You have to get right into it, Brian. Go after Jim Patterson, Greg Taylor. Bring them up here. Sit down and talk to them. Bring the people that know about the fishing and talk about it. That's the most important part, because right now, the way it's sitting, if those guys could get all that fish killed, and that's one of the things that the government is saying. Once you natives are out of fish, you ain't gonna argue about it. Nothing. Eh?
Once you can't support yourselves.
5 years ago, or 6 years ago, whatever it was, I was up the headwaters of the Skeena when Shell Oil was going in there to start drilling. They had 3 pumps already in the ground. I went up there and supported the Teltam Nation, what they call themselves, the Klabana Keepers. Some of the Niskat were there that didn't agree with it. Wisconsin were there. I was there with a half a dozen other First Nations from this area here, the Gitxsans. We spoke up. And one of the things that we told Shell, if you guys don't pull these pumps, we're bringing the whole pile of cement up here. And we're going to cement your pump, literally buried in cement. And the amount of people that were standing there at the time, there's not one Shell Oil man was going to stand there and try to stop us from what we were going to do. But what the idea was, Brian, they were going to drill that stinks gas out of there, and they're going to send the polluted water into the Skeena River. Okay? You're only 5 miles from one end of that thing to the next. We were up there for 6 weeks fighting this. And if we didn't do that, it would have gone through already. We wouldn't even be sitting here to talk about the fish, because you wouldn't have had any fish to discuss. That polluted water would have killed it the first 2 or 3 years of its life. It's been gone. And I hear another thing you guys keep talking about. We don't know how to stop Fort Babine. We don't know how to stop those people up there. But guess what, folks? There's one place on the Babine River that you could block with a handful of rocks. And not one shock eye is going to make it up into that lake. And believe me, I said this last year when I talked to Nathan Collins. We had a meeting with Nathan Collins about fishing. I said, we'll get all the guys together. We'll block that river off. There'll be no more spawners up the Babine. And you all know, anybody who's ever dealt with fish. And Brian, you remember when I took you down, I told you about all those cohos that are trying to get back up that pipe at the hatchery when you were still working with the hatchery? My son and I were going fishing, and there's all these cohos lined up. That much water. 6-inch pipe. They want to get back up to where they were born. So what happens if you nail that? If you shut that Babine River right down, what happens? All those sockeye spawn at the mouth of the Babine. Then the next 4 years they come around, do their cycle, they're gonna spawn in the same place. And you don't have to block that off again because they're not gonna go back up where they originally came from. That's their original spot. So think about this. If you guys are gonna argue with the white man, put those kind of arguments in because I'm willing to shut it down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Just a quick response to Sherry. Everything we do, we use our own ayok. You don't have to remind anybody around here, but what I kept emphasizing, when you deal with the Amshawa, you have to tell them they have to learn our ayok. It's not just a one-way street. And that's what's been happening. I kept telling them our yoke is still there, has not been abolished, and it's stronger than some of the European laws. Way stronger. But how do you put it in effect when everybody's arguing? Everything we try to do, there's always the naysayers. It's hard. They kept saying, why don't we work together? How do you do that? You can shake your head all the time. I'm not talking to you.
I could what all the time?
You're shaking your head.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying here.
And according to Nugget Ann, she was invited to the meeting to learn what's going on. She never came. There's always names on there she's invited at the gates. Their names are on here.
But it wasn't on the minutes, that's why I brought it up today. That's what we didn't understand.
Well, not everything's on the minutes like the absentees. There's lots of people who doesn't come. We don't force people to join. It's just like some people say, oh, I got banned by the GTS. Nobody got banned. Somebody goes to your house to misbehave, you have to ask them to leave. And this is the house, Samoyed, when there's a meeting. They can come back as long as they behave, they can stay. That's our ayok. I am getting tired of, I keep saying, we always go back to the Amsawa ayok. Why? Assimilation is working. They haven't stopped trying to get rid of us. But we're here. And if you want to talk about Gitxsan, you have to learn our ayok, our system. You can't just get it on Facebook and all that. I've lived through what Gilbert just explained about the fest. I just turned 76. I used to go down the coast fish with my uncles. I went down there every summer to be with my grandmother because she worked in the cannery. You know what, then there was canneries were going 24/7, 7 days. That's how much fish they were getting then. Before I got they promised me a boat. But then I met my wife when I turned landlubber. I miss the coast. It's dangerous. Well, they got better boats now. And I remember when they used to charge us, like what was brought up here, they used to get charged entrapment. I was just with my friend one time, this white guy, we didn't know he's DFO. He sold him one little fish, and I got charged with him, because I was with him. 3 times I went to court, I had to miss work. I was not compensated for those missing days. Eventually the judge said he's going to stay And if you come back and try to charge these people again, I'm gonna be right back and do the same thing. So there are others. And some judges, they use, oh, there's no treaty. There's a question here about what's government's gonna be like. We had government before the European contact. It's not gone. That's what we're trying to get back at. I know we're not gonna go back in the bush and live like we used to. But the government ourselves, face to face, federal and BC, that they recognize us, the Delamo, that senile old guy, McKicken, etc. And they won in the highest court, yet they're still breaking the law by fee simple use. They were not supposed to sell any more land until everything's settled, but guess what? Even some of our hunting grounds, there's a fence, no trespassing, no hunting. And with Jack, we're just getting started, Jack. Rome wasn't built in one day. We'll get there. Right now, we're not rushing, we're taking baby steps, not just little steps, but we'll get there. Just like Gilbert said, Patterson was mentioned, and he knew he bought all the boats. So eventually we'll be there. But right now, we're trying to stop the sports fishermen because our stocks has been depleted. We have to start somewhere. We tried last year. Nobody said that nobody cannot fish on the Oga, I mean the river. Everybody had their nets in. It's just that sports fishermen we're trying to stop. Actually, it works a little bit. But this year we're gonna make sure that there's nobody. I heard one time they said we don't need CWA to monitor. We can do it on our own. Because we have jurisdiction, trespassing. And that's another thing, what do you do with trespassers? Anybody have an idea? I'd like to hear. I know what you think of that. With that, I just want to respond to part of what you're saying, like, we have our own yoke and we use it. It's not gonna stop. But the Amshawi has to learn our Ayok if they want to deal with us. Not just one way. And somewhere we have to integrate it, use part of theirs while they use ours. I went to a lot of court cases where, oh, you guys don't have a treaty, it don't mean nothing to us. Assimilation is still full bore ahead. People are still prejudiced against the natives. That's all I wanted to say regarding that. If Nigadane wants to learn what's happening, she can come to the meeting, but we're not going to force her. But don't blame other people for her not being attended, or Nisto, or anybody else for that matter. There's lots of names here that's not, they didn't want to come, but we're not going to twist their arms. It's up to them. They're the Shimogi. Thank you.
I want to, we need to move on to the next item on our agenda, but before I do that, I want to acknowledge the information that the guests have shared with the city get here and the concerns that were brought forward. I believe we've all taken notes on what you have provided, and thank you very much. And but time is getting on here, and I'm sorry, but we have to move on. There's more requests to speak, but I want to get on with the agenda. Number 4, the Tribunal Ad Hoc Committee.
Gordon?
Jeweler guy, what's that? Oh, try racing. Did you notice all the cameras go around me?
Can that water? Walter?
Okay, Simgiget. Pretty good report on the case management stuff. You're just getting started. We still haven't implemented the terms of reference, and hopefully that's going to be done at the next meeting with Canada and BC. So this tribunal is something that is going to be interesting, because what it does is going to look at the individual right. The individual right. So if we set the tribunal up, usually tribunals are set up by legislation. The provincial government has legislation, and the federal government also can legislate a tribunal. So what you look at is the Constitution 91 and 92. This is the authority of the federal government to legislate. And 92 is the authority of the provincial government to legislate. That's to legislate. And 13 and another section, I forget now. These guys are 13 too. This is DFO, Federal Fishery. And this year's Land Act. So if they're interested in the tribunal, they might be able to legislate to form the tribunal. It'll be 3 people. Usually have 3 people, usually judges or retired judges or something like that. And the third one to give the power is the IO, the authority of the Samog. So that's what we're sticking with, is that we have the authority. And the idea of the tribunal is that any individual right in our territory is an act. The jurisdiction of our enact. How come you own that fishing site? You look at your blanket, your adow, and your pole. That's jurisdiction. Nobody can argue against us about this. But if we argue about fish, that's all it is just argument. We can argue all day long about how many fish this and how many fish that and spawning and all that stuff. What it really boils down to is you're an act. There can be 1 billion fish available or no fish. This is what we got. And nobody can take that away from us. So that's what we got to get first. We need the ballpark. If you don't have a ballpark, you don't have a ball team. We need that enact. And that's what this process is about. And you go to the tribunal, and that will help us. We set up an entity entity so that people can go there with their complaints. We don't have to worry about monitoring. Because I'm the biggest chicken shit. Those guys say every summer they want to fight me. Down on the Sacramento Gulf fishing site. I've been staying there now for 4 years. So now I can just tell them, well, you got a complaint? Go to this tribunal. See what they say. Because the policemen don't give a shit. The GWA, not GWA, the DFO don't give a shit. When they ran over the Gitxsan people, the white guys, they just ran over their nets and everything. That was 2 summers ago. This is not 30, 40 years ago. This was 2 summers ago. And Jack got charged 2 summers ago. They did the same thing. They only come in to charge people if we're doing something. But if we need help from the police, Gitxsan phoned the police, they said, no, we can't go down there because you guys really don't have a right to fish. These guys got permits. So they phoned the DFO. Same thing. DFO says, well, you got section 35 fish, but these guys got permits. So get tough and act. That's what we inherited. As soon as I was born from my mom, I was inherited that. As soon as I was born. As soon as you were born. Lester didn't even know he was my relation until we were about 12 years old. And we all have rights. And you see the meeting yesterday, how it all got turned sideways because we're all saying, he's not a chief, that's not his land. We've got to put that aside and start dealing with little things first. This is our jurisdiction. It's really small, but we can win this one. If we argue fish, we're going to lose. If we argue an act, we got it won. And now we set this up so that anybody has a complaint, they can go to the tribunal. So if you guys, we're going to put that to the DFO and BC at our next meeting. So that's our strength, you guys. Remember that. We can't argue about thousands of fish being seined somewhere or thousands of fish being seined or sold or whatever. This is what we're going to win with, the fishing site. That's the winner. And we need GWA and we need SFC, Skin and Fish Commission. We need the Lachwalams. We need them all. We got to convince them to support us because they'll see what we're doing with the ANAC. The Lake Babine people, they lost all the foreshore. So all they got is whatever they can do in the middle of the water. They've lost all their lahip around the lake. So this is it, Simgigek. And the Ayok says, if you don't have an ANAC, you're still entitled to fish. And if somebody doesn't have fish, you can come to talk to somebody at the ANAC and get fish. Gitxsan people are not denied fish. Thank you.
Yeah.
You get with that guy, $5 each.
I could go to National Tribunal.
You're not supposed to hug the big women. You get something, you get some.
You're so worried, you remember what I'm saying, I'm all denied that. Oh, we don't have that anymore. But we have before. You have a
Jack and I went up there. Run away before it was done. Went up and they were using their boat lock. I know what I'm saying. Young man, take your hand.
My Chiefs. Did you get the same as yesterday? Different. Yeah. I didn't get the one. I think 5
Thank you, Gordon. We've got a couple more minutes. There's 3 on the list. Doris, Walter, and Sherry. George? You had your hand up earlier. I had to.
Well, yeah, Shemog, when you needed me, hey Shemog, dan neemt dit ook zich niet. Ach nee, dat mag niet goed. Jij hebt lijm doen, I'll switch to Amshiwamach. The thing that I got strapped for all my life while I was going to school to learn how to speak English because I was Canadian. Okay, we heard about all the things, and I'm really happy that they're still sitting here because they heard about the tribunal. That is one good thing. And although it may seem like we're not doing much here, there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of very, very thoughtful people sitting around this table. And everything that, when we start, we ask our Creator for guidance. And the first thing that we think about, of course, is that we are Gitxsan and we have yokes. And first and foremost, we have to follow our yoke. And then that sort of puts a lot of things aside, even some of the fears that quite a few of us do show. But what I'm really happy about, Gordon, I thank you very much for your presentation. That has given me a new leash on sitting on this table and sharing my thoughts of what I want to see for the future of Gitxsan. OEA brought up one specific problem. Talked about so many millions of dollars that have been lost. If we don't think about it, we have to think about it. So let's all be prepared to discuss some of the things that we have about this special company on Rupert. I got my own first boat when I was 21. I started fishing with my dad when I was 5. So that's 15, 16 years. And I fished till they gave so many rules and regulations. They even told us that we can't even leave our water, fish in the water for over 15. If you went over 20 minutes, they take everything that you got. They even take your net. That is one of the rules and regulations that stopped me from continuing on fishing. And of course, there was this thing that was brought up by a lot of people here. What was happening up in the Babine? We heard about it. And we were wondering why it was being allowed. Because as soon as somebody started saying things, we knew that the fish was going to get depleted way back then. And then when the weather started changing, and
I can spot some spots and gates there that you might be able to walk across the Gitxsan where it never was that low. Even in a real bad season, I never ever seen rocks sticking out where you can probably jump from rock to rock until you go across the river. So we've got a lot to think about. Shimiget, Sigimarna. And this is something that also has to be brought in. The weather, you know, the conditions. And that is why I'm really happy that we're sitting here and we're sharing our concerns with the governments. And we're not overfishing. I heard somebody say, darn, rivers are drying up, the fish got nowhere to go. Of course there could be a way that we can do it. We could probably join a whole bunch of creeks together and then make one fair-sized creek. Who knows? Let's wait till we get there and then we might be able to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Walter, you said you had a small comment?
Yep, I missed out earlier to we get, I don't know who's looking after Gitxsan, but after fishing season last year, Jack and I took a drive out to Salmon River. So I heard there was a bunch of logging up there, and when we were up there, we seen all these boats, fishermen. I'm sure going up towards Gitxsan with their boats. I said, where the hell are they going up there with their boat? But we went all the way up there, and at 52 where the GWA had their boat launch, you should have seen them on Amshawa up there fishing. They couldn't even park there, like 30 boats up there. So I don't know who's looking after Gitxsan. You should be concerned what's going on up there. And when we're on our way back, even like Brinkman was up there logging on our territories, you know, and they told me that I don't have no right to be up there. I was even told by my own family that I'm making deals with loggers up there. So I got pissed off, you know, and I grabbed the power saw and I dropped trees across the road in 2 areas as I got accused of that. You know, on our way out, I felled trees across the road. I accidentally blocked in one of our house members, Jimmy Latai. He was taking pictures with his camera. So I had to buck up the trees and let him go out. And I dropped some more. So I was quite concerned about that. So I wanted to, I don't know if you guys are looking after Gitxsan, you guys would go up there. Because when we drove all the way up to towards Skeena, you should see them up there. And some are going right into Gitxsan. They were dipping out of there. I'm sure, dipping the fish out of there. That's all I wanted to mention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sherry?
Thank you again for allowing me time to speak. Just want to start with a little note I said here. I'm here before you. I am a spiritual being in a physical presence. I know this. I see myself through this lens. It makes the trials and tribulations of Sherry's life, and it puts it into context. I am not just Sherry, but a representation of bloodlines that came before me. A bloodline that can be traced to my original source on this earth, with a role and responsibilities to respect the beliefs and values given to my family since the beginning of time. And for as long as I can remember, I've been told this. This does not change. I may change in my physical presence, just as our experience here might change, but the indigenous laws do not change. I know with my spirit and my soul that I have been here many times before. The sense of knowing who I am and where I belong, to give more than I receive, to take only what I need, and to respect those lives, the salmon, the fish, the moose, the plants, the animals. We depend on them for our physical existence. Our Creator has always been a part of my life, and my death will be a return to our Creator. And I miss my mom. And I understand my grannies and my dad want to go home. They have lived a good life based on their values and beliefs, and they've passed on what they can to the next generations, the roles and responsibilities, to value and believe what has made our physical existence here happen until time, millennia into the future. We've been so blessed to have 29 chiefs speak their Dachget at the Delgamuch. Only 29 spoke. It's time for each and every bloodline to peacefully assert their Dachget for their people and for their territory. And that is why we stand here before you as Wilps Nigadane and Nista, trying to hope that those processes of meeting and talking together as chiefs, not just 12 chiefs to represent all the chiefs here, or just 3 chiefs to represent the chiefs here. It's our hope that our leadership will find a way that each and every chief's Dachget will have an expression here, a role and a responsibility. When you ask who's looking after Gitxsan, it should be those chiefs, those families that should be called. When you talk about a tribunal, all of the chiefs have a right to hear it all at once. And that's what we hope, that we can start, as Bobby says, to work together and see a pathway. We all want the same things. We're all living our lives trying to find that path. And all Wilps Nigadane and Nista ask is, can we stop? Can we just stop and gather all together as one and hear it all at once? What it is these hopes and dreams are that this office has for our people, that they're doing in the name of our people. We ask that you include the wing chiefs and some house members to witness these important talks that come here. The media, we brought this up yesterday. We had one chief that didn't feel comfortable with the media. And are there other ways that our people used to get the word out with our runners? You know, there's a system there. I see GWA pays people to hand out their 200 notices to each of the house. There's ways that we can use those planning and decision-making processes and not follow Amsua's ways of administering, and see if there's ways to plan and make decisions using our ways that our old people used to, how our feast system used to run. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sharon. Number 5 on the agenda, I'd like to table that. I said that we discussed the letter, but I'd like to table that. It's getting late, and so on.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Howie, Buck Tuesday night singers house when we'll be, and some of them go switching off from Buckley.
Okay. I just want to set up the next date for the next meeting. Do you know when is the other team meeting? 13th. So May 14th, does that work for everyone? May 14th?
May 1st, my birthday.
Yeah.
Like,
69, yeah.
This is 4.
Amazing.
May 14th, once, twice,
4 o'clock, bingo.
4 o'clock. Thank you very much. The next meeting is going to be May the 14th. Reminder, the crisis management team meeting on April 18th. And before we all separate or go our ways, again, I ask, please give me due to close our meeting in prayer. Oh, you. Good man.